Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, cortisol levels, right? So now we're talking cortisol levels because I don't sleep well and da, 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 da. And so, it just reminded me like, okay, I need to ask my clients also, how much time are you spending in the sun? Because not a lot of us are outside these days, right?
Or do you take a vitamin D supplement?
Or do you take a vitamin? Exactly. Welcome back to Vital Skin Essentials. I'm Lorena.
And I'm Emma.
And today we are going to be talking about different types of acne, questions that you should be asking your client in order to determine what kind of acne and what's causing their acne, and how you can treat them either in treatment or what they can be using at home to be able to clear their skin.
A lot of people come in and they're just frustrated. They've been doing a lot of different things trying to treat it and it hasn't been working.
Or it's gone worse.
Yeah. So sometimes people are really excited to kind of get a hold of it and figure it out. And some people are kind of burnt out and you can tell they're like a little frustrated, don't even want to talk about it too much or aren't super open to suggestions.
Because they've just, haven't had any luck or anything.
Yeah. So kind of, feel it out person to person, but basically you want to ask them first, like what kind of lifestyle questions, right? What kind of diet, if they have, if they're taking vitamins, what vitamins they're taking, because B12 and B6 seem to be really bad for acne. We're not sure exactly why. It might be that the B vitamins actually like feed the bacteria. So that's the only thing I've heard that could be the reason.
Medication,
the reason why B vitamins are so bad for acne for some people. And also pro-inflammatory foods like milk and eggs can be big triggers for people.
Lots of dairy.
Yeah.
So questions that you could be asking is like how much dairy consumption, and then typically they don't even pay attention to how much dairy they're consuming, but you can ask them a little bit more specific questions like, do you drink coffee every day? What kind of milk do you use with your coffee? What kind of breakfast do you have? Most likely they'll tell you eggs with this or eggs with that. That's a typical breakfast food. And so dairy, egg, people love cheese. I love cheese.
Yes.
I'm acne prone, but I still eat cheese, but I have a balanced regimen that will keep me from, being like faceful of acne. So,
and when you ask them, they might be like, oh yeah, I tried that. I eliminated that and it did make a difference. So it's like something you can there's several reasons to ask those questions, but
process of elimination.
Process of elimination.
Just bad diet in general, of course, as well, because when we mentioned in our video before, like if there's inflammation in the gut, there's inflammation that's going to show up on the first surface of the skin. So
yes,
diet is a huge one, but if you've already eliminated those from your questionnaire, then, you have the medications, you have, I know I have a client who has an imbalance in her hormones, so she takes hormonal medication. And so that really like spikes or decreases her acne depending on the levels. And so finding that right balance in that medication is like crucial to her. So on top of that, lifestyle, working out, how often do you work? Are you sweating profusely? Your hygiene. Are you like showering immediately after? Are you sitting in your sweat for hours at a time, going on running errands? And then you'll start to know, because you start to get like where your bra, sports bra is, you'll start to break out that area, or like around here, your back area, things like that. And so that's one of the things that you can ask them is, or really you can spot yourself, because if you start to notice, okay, I see a pattern at both right here, and then where the sports bra would be, it's kind of obvious, I think, in that case, right?
Yeah, and in that case, you can just be like, oh, this might seem obvious, but make sure you're washing your face right after you work out. Make sure you're not working out with makeup on your face. Just things like that, like, telling them, like, I know you're doing this already, but
just make sure, right?
Just make sure. And if they sleep on their stomach or their side or their back, that could also be make sure they're changing their pillowcase often enough, or maybe doing like a silk or even like linen is antimicrobial, something like that.
Yeah, because you'll have to find details like on them, like, okay, how thick is their hair? Like, are they washing their hair so often? Or sometimes they don't wash their hair for like a week. I personally wash my hair like every other day, or not every day. I just can't. I don't like the smell of hair.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't. So for me, like learning other people's habits and stuff like that, that can be something that you can ask them. How often do you wash your hair? Are you sleeping with your hair up, or are you sleeping with it down? Because that can cause even, acne on the shoulders, depending on how long their hair is, on their forehead areas, or like down here where they sleep like with a headband. And it's just all of the breakouts are just right here where the headband would be.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even lifestyle in terms of like work, you mentioned stress levels, but also like the tools that you have at work. I know a Pilates instructor that has a headset here, and it's hot Pilates. So it's always on this side, like the other side was clear, and it's just like here. So you have things like hygiene things that you can do to prevent, but it's like the questions that you ask them, if even if they don't acknowledge it right then and there, or they don't think about it right then and there, or they don't tell you right then and there, it's the deeper questions and the detailed questions that you ask them so that they can reflect and then like, oh, that's probably what it is. And then they make that change, and then they start to see, results. Or maybe it wasn't that and it was something else, or a combination of things, but you have to be pretty specific with them.
Is this something that your parents dealt with as well?
Right, because it could be genetics.
Because it could be genetics, which is a lot harder to treat, I would say. And then just their products, what products they're using, what products they've used in the past. Like, has anything worked? Has anything, well, I guess obviously it's not working if they're there for acne, but has anything seemed to work in the past and then it stopped working? Have they ever been on Accutane? Things like that. And then once you analyze their skin, looking to see how much oil production they have, because sometimes they're very oily, but sometimes they're not at all. It's just just an inflammatory acne, and that's a tricky acne, and they're not going to benefit from extractions. It's just going to be uncomfortable. Nothing's going to come out, and it's going to scar them. So, if it's just like a really not inflammatory, but just like an acne, someone who's really oily, like they'll probably benefit from extractions because it's going to come out really easily. You're not going to use hardly any pressure. It won't cause any post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation.
Right.
So those are things, when it's the kind that's like really dry and inflamed, and
exactly.
just like, ugh, because sometimes you do what you can and you tell them what they need to use, and then it's really like up to them to be like super compliant, which is hard to gauge if they're going to be super compliant, especially if they're young. And diet, I mean, there's a very low level of compliance with changing diet. Giving up dairy is really hard for a lot of people.
But I always say, like, don't cut it out completely either, balance. I just don't have a grilled cheese sandwich every day or something,
Yeah, so. That's true. I feel like if you really want to, like, see if that's it, though, you have to, like...
Absolutely.
And then you can, like...
And then you can slowly, incorporate it back into your diet, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to leave cheese.
Or depending on how much it bothers them. If it's like, oh my gosh, this acne is, like, really destroying my self-confidence. Or it's like, oh, it doesn't bother me so much that I would give up cheese or chocolate.
Like, I'm okay with a few little blemishes, right?
Yeah.
Although, they teach us that chocolate, it's a myth. Like in school, there's actually like...
I think it's just the sugar in it that can, maybe.
I don't know. But I know that every time my mom eats peanuts and chocolate, like, she will break out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like if we had like pure cacao or whatever, maybe we wouldn't. But no one eats chocolate that way. It's all sugar and milk.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
I don't know. This is outdated book, textbook when I was in school. I am only 23. I will stay 23.
Forever. 23 plus.
I have a client who just had a lot of blemishes, went on vacation. She doesn't work. So it's not like it was work stress, So she didn't work. She just had, some hormonal breakouts where it was like down to her neck area, behind the ear a little bit, and very little up here. It was like mainly down here. So went to like out of the country, beautiful beach vacation for like 2 weeks, got a lot of sun, but thankfully she like is olive tone, so she can handle some sun and not be burned. And she came back and her skin was clear. And I'm like, I need to do some research. So then, of course, I'm doing my own research, right? So, whenever like my head hurts or something, like I'll go outside and I'll sit in the sun for like 5 minutes or something, and my headache is gone, right? It's like, okay, this is pretty powerful. So then I started to develop psoriasis and stuff like that. So I know that UV light or LED light is good for psoriasis, and so I was like, let me try the sun. So I went out in the sun. I didn't put any sunscreen on my scalp or anything, and I didn't put any sunscreen on my body for 10, 15 minutes. I got back in, and then later on I went back into the sun, boom. And I did that for the 4 days that I was on vacation. I haven't used any cream on it, and it's getting so much better. And like even my foot one.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's getting better. But I definitely did get some sun. I noticed how my scalp was not irritated or anything like that. So then I started to ask myself, okay, well, how much time am I spending in the sun? And I realized not at all.
Yeah.
The only sun that I'm getting is the sun either on the way to work, depending on what time of day I go to work,
Mm-hmm.
and then I park in a garage. I leave the garage. I maybe have 2 minutes of sun, if that, because I work downtown, so there's like tall buildings. So there's not a lot of sun.
Yeah.
And then I go and I work in the spa, and then we work in the basement where it's like no windows, no nothing. And when I am upstairs where there is some sunlight, like it's not on me.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see the correlation between like skin inflammation and vitamin D.
Yeah.
So and I started to like do some research, like, okay, well, what? Because I am actually deficient in vitamin D.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went to go get my records and everything.
Yeah, that will affect a lot of things.
Yeah, like sleep.
Yes.
And then sleep affects your skin and your mind.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's a hormone.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, cortisol levels, right? So now we're talking cortisol levels because I don't sleep well and da, 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 da. And so, it just reminded me like, okay, I need to ask my clients also, how much time are you spending in the sun? Because not a lot of us are outside these days, right?
Or do you take a vitamin D supplement?
Or do you take a vitamin? Exactly. So questions like that, like, I'm naturally darker than this. Like this might be my natural color.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just, like, this is brown. Like I got a nice little golden tan, right?
Yeah.
So I love this because this is the color that I was born with. And that's why my nickname is my nickname. And I'll tell you later. But but then I realized, like I am deficient in vitamin D. That's what I needed. And then I felt like I that my nickname doesn't even match me anymore because I was so pale looking. And then I look back now and I'm like, this is not me, So I just started to feel and look dull. And then I realized that, I started to run outside a little bit more often. And I started to get my color back. And then I really went on this vacation. I'm like, this is me. This is who and so, and just to see the changes in my skin and my scalp, like right now it's irritated again, but can't be in the sun all the time. You can have a little sun, but you can't have a lot of sun. You can't find a good balance. So exactly. Otherwise I will burn. But
that's so cool. And that's true that it is like a cascading, like it's not just fixing the high cortisol levels. It's like what's causing the high cortisol. It's the sleeping well. Yeah. It's just like a boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. So that leads to my next question that you can ask, like, what's your sleep like? Right. So you can see a lot of the times when I have clients that, typically have clear skin, but every now and then break out like this, I get the same thing. Oh, I just went on, I just got back from vacation. We were drinking and staying up all night. And then like, this guy shows up here somewhere around the forehead. That's when it's like, oh, okay. You start to see that, similarities in each of these stories and stuff like that.
Yes. And then also it's like, oh, you were up late, you were drinking. Did you fall asleep in your makeup?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the same story.
Vacation. And that's kind of a different thing too, because that's like, oh, this isn't like a serious acne problem. This is just
hygiene and slight lifestyle
breakout.
Yeah, exactly. And even when you are on vacation and you're reapplying your sunscreen, like as you should, you get some occasional little breakouts. So you get the closed comedones happen. I like to take my little salicylic wash, like the gel cleanser from the Seafood collection, and I use that instead. Like you know what I use this time? I use antibacterial Dove soap.
Okay.
And I had no breakouts.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like $1 a bar. But yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Because every time I go on vacation, like I'm reapplying, didn't have a breakout this time.
Nice. A lot of people love Dove.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, interesting. But every now and then maybe. Like I think the people I would recommend that to is if you have like really, really back acne and you like are working out, I probably recommend antibacterial bar soap.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start to.
Yeah. And because it helps to dry it out. I mean, that's one thing the sun's in for acne. It's increasing vitamin D levels, but also it's just drying it out.
Right, it kills the bacteria. Yeah, that's what I was reading as well. So, detailed questions like that, if you really want to get to the root of that issue. Because again, like you said, it's sometimes not acne related, it's just hygiene.
Yes.
So questions
makeup brush.
Right. Oh, right. Exactly. Especially if they're getting that breakout like right here.
Yeah, those little bumps. Yeah. So those are the main things, like
Right,
just covering past treatments, past products, diet, lifestyle, medication / vitamins,
hygiene.
Yes, hygiene questions, and then also taking a look and seeing, is it just this area? Is it maybe just ingrown hairs? Is it someone who is like a woman who could be menopausal, postmenopausal, or possibly has like endometriosis or something like that?
Right.
Can cause that hormonal imbalance that causes the hairs here. And in that case, they might not even realize that that's the cause of it, or they might realize they have the hair, but they don't realize that's causing the breakouts. And so, like, if they're a candidate for it, laser hair removal could fix all of their
which
not the underlying cause, but the aesthetic.
Right. And not saying that that is acne. I think you're just referring to
but it can be mistaken for
exactly acne. Because of the inflammation. It could be that they're picking at it because it starts to itch when it's inflamed, or they start getting the tweezers and the tweezers aren't clean, and then they break the skin, and so then they create that infection themselves. So then it gets worse, and they think it's acne, but it's actually bacterial.
Or there's just all these ingrown hairs that are getting inflamed too.
Right. So that's where you the esthetician, you the professional, go in to take analyze your skin.
Yes.
So
is there any other cause? I mean, I guess fungal acne is another one. You can spot it pretty easily. It's very
like a group of them.
We'll post a picture, but it's very uniform looking. It sometimes can be along with regular acne, which can be kind of a little bit harder to tell what it is.
I mean, you can have cystic, you can have face full of blackheads, nose full of blackheads. You can have a bundle of them. So, just learning to treat all of them.
Yeah, and they're all fairly similar. Because
you can have blackheads or sebaceous filaments where you don't have acne. And
and that's an easier issue to have, because you just need to get the oil under control.
Right, rebalancing the skin, exactly. So why don't we talk a little bit about, do you want to do more treatments or ingredients?
I guess we can kind of do both, yeah. And salicylic acid is a really important one.
Yeah, that's going to be best friend.
Yeah, because it actually kind of breaks up those sticky bonds in the pore, and that's usually, it purifies the skin. It's usually oil and dead skin that is causing that plug. So you have to really do something to remove that oil plug. And salicylic acid, that's one of the top ones. I would say, like, the less the better. So making sure they're not using like 10 products, making sure they're not using any active botanicals, because that's going to be probably too irritating. Right. Not using products that contain vitamin E, because vitamin E can be super clogging for the skin. And then like a really gentle moisturizer when it's not too thick.
So in some cases where it is like cystic acne and it's just like lots of inflammation, lots of redness in the skin, I will also prescribe them like a wash with like benzoyl peroxide, like a 5% or something. And so that, not every day though, like I'd say maybe like 3 times a week to start with, because it can be very drying. So making sure you're, again, rebalancing the skin with a lightweight moisturizer, but still not drying out the skin with a benzoyl peroxide. That would be more, I would say more of an aggressive-ish approach as an esthetician with benzoyl peroxide. But if it's just, so overwhelming on the skin, that's probably what I would recommend. So again, it just depends what the situation is for the skin. You can do it. You can always do a gentle approach, and it'll be a longer journey. I think be more gentle, like not doing chemical peels, not doing it, an actual treatment like regimen at home. And it's going to be so much of a longer journey if they just come to you once a month, and So for sure, get them established on a routine, even if it's, again, 2-3 things like you said, wash, moisturizer, or something.
Yeah, because when you come in, you can do a light peel, you can do blue light. There's also things they can do to help, even microcurrents and things like that. If it's not bad, if it's not cystic acne, it can really help because it's bringing blood flow and oxygen to the skin, and oxygen treatments are wonderful.
Really for acne.
Because the bacteria can't live in pure oxygen.
Right, exactly. I was going to say the aerobatic bacteria is the one that causes the acne. So aerobatic bacteria doesn't like high pressured oxygen. So
yes, there's different that's the main cause. There are some different ones. And I think that's sometimes the ones that are just like really tricky to treat. And at a certain point, sometimes you have to, say, okay, like you might need to talk to someone about getting on Accutane. Like, and I don't do that often. It's just if it's someone who it is just not going away, and it could be that they're not compliant, but they're not going to become suddenly compliant, especially if it's a teenager and compliance isn't going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, they barely brush their teeth.
Yeah, sometimes Accutane is the best option if it's to the point where it's going to turn to big pitted scars if it keeps on the way it is. Because that can be really, really kind of demoralizing for them. And then that scarring is really hard to get rid of.
Right. I mean, eventually you can do lasers. I've seen a lot of great lasers, on people. And
yes, lasers.
In addition to microneedling. Pheno peels are amazing, but do require more a medical license than an esthetician, depending, I guess. I mean, I think everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think we could ever do. Pheno peels usually have to be hooked up to a heart monitor. And, and it's a really intense process. The healing process is crazy. But it's fun visual, and the skin looks amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Restored. Yeah, I like it. Again, treatments, what we mentioned, peels. I love TCA, trichloric acid, love on acneic skin. I love it. Even lactic acid, I recently learned that it's better for more where it's just, blackheads, whiteheads, and stuff like that, but it will bring all of that up where you don't even have to do extractions. It's beautiful. I love it. I mean, the 10% lactic acid, that was really good. And just kind of gauging again, what peel will be best for the skin, but if they have acne, I recommend TCA peels.
Yes.
What else? You mentioned blue light therapy.
Sometimes like a retinol, Retin-A, or like a dappling gel. It's really helpful.
I think you recommend that pretty often, right?
I do. It's actually meant for acne. Well, I guess all of it was originally meant for acne.
Right. Yeah. I think things that they can do at home.
I would say following one of those kind of simple skincare routines, like a gentle cleanser, either just kind of a basic or with acids, doing some type of an exfoliant. So you could do, if you didn't use an exfoliating cleanser, you could do like an acid toner, or you could do something like the dappling gel, and then like a really gentle light moisturizer, like a Avene or something like that. Right.
I was also going to suggest, because it can be an internal issue, doing more like detoxifying things for the body that they can do. Like a lot of people like start their morning with like warm water and lemon or lime and things like that.
Yeah.
But doing more like helping your gut as well is one of the things. So maybe I don't think that recommending a pre and probiotic would be unprofessional or beyond our profession.
Yeah, you could suggest it.
Yeah. I recommend like a probiotic to help strengthen your gut system to help with the inflammation that's being released onto the surface of your skin, something like that.
Yeah, because having a balanced gut and not just eating a bunch of pro-inflammatory foods definitely has an effect.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, sometimes I do use more of a gentle approach depending on their skin, if it's super inflamed or if it's just really irritation from products that they've been using, because it's not acne all the time, like you said. When it is irritation on the skin from using lots of acids and they have not pustule or anything like that, it's just red and inflamed, then that's when I go of a more like calming and like strengthening the skin barrier treatment, and that helps it drastically.
Yes.
Calming down the skin, because again, it's just irritation in the skin. They thinking it's like, oh, I'm breaking out. I mean, technically you are reacting to something that, just not reacting well to your skin. Yeah. Something new, something aggressive. They're probably, rubbing it on or using it 3-4 times a day and, making sure they're well educated, of course, but making sure that you know how to calm and soothe the skin and strengthen the skin barrier.
Yes. Having a strong skin barrier helps everything. I mean, any number of things can happen once that goes away.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
High frequency current is also really good. You can do that in treatments.
Yeah, high frequency.
Yeah.
That's an oldie but a goodie.
It's an oldie but a goodie. You want to I sometimes suggest that people buy them for home, especially if they don't seem to be reacting to products well, or they can't use too many products without having a bad reaction. And you just want to make sure to tell them that they want the one with the blue light, not the red light. And
I mean, although it works for the inflammation, but I get what
one doesn't kill the bacteria the same way. So
right,
but it has other good effects and like increases circulation. So that is helpful for acne too. But yeah, that one's, I've had some people that like nothing worked, and that did work. So that's a good one. And if they have a light mask, you can just tell them to do the blue light.
Although the red one's a little bit more popular, but still there are some that have like multicolor ones.
Yeah, I think like Dr. Dennis Gross has a blue light. And and keep wearing their sunscreen, even though that might be actually making the acne worse. You don't want to scar. It's really important, and they don't want to overly dry out their skin because they're getting more likely to scar. So that's the reason we still recommend a moisturizer.
Yeah, although I will say, again, I'm acne prone, but I will say like Tula, I like for oily skin. What else? Tula and that Naturum. Even though it's a chemical sunscreen, it won't clog my pores.
Okay.
But that Tula one that has like the superfoods in it with probiotics, love.
Okay.
I haven't had a problem with that one. So again, it could be, yes, your sunscreen could be causing it, but there's other sunscreens you can try.
Yeah, you can just keep trying one until there's one that works for you. Like I always tell people, like, oh, am I using the right SPF? I'm like, it's really heavily regulated. So as long as it's 30 or above, as long as you use it, like I'm fine with that sunscreen. Like I don't have any, I have sunscreens I like, but whatever one works.
Yeah, exactly.
Just doesn't clog your pores.
Trial and error. And error. You will find it.
Yeah. I know, was it like 2%? There was some, I remember like when I was younger, because I was like, I want to get tanned. I want like some SPF. I think it was like some ridiculous, like 2% or 5%. I don't even know if they make it anymore.
Like,
what's the point?
Yeah. Might as well lather yourself in coconut oil.
I know. I really understood sunscreen at the time too, because it doesn't protect you from getting tan. But I was like, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, acne's tricky and frustrating, and sometimes these things work really well and sometimes they don't. But these are the things you need to cross off the list first.
Right. And I would say guide your guest. Let them know, hey, let's try this first, or and explain to them that it will be a long journey, because especially if they've been struggling for a long time, as long as you establish that trust with them, like they'll do what you say. They'll use the products that you prescribe them, and and don't be afraid if it doesn't work the first time, or maybe it was something that either made it worse, or now we know. So it's better to be open and honest with your guest. In my experience, that's worked the best, because they don't blame you for it. They're like, oh, well, it's probably just not for me, right? Depending on the verbiage that you use, because it's not your fault. Like if you recommend something that is for acne and it's just not working for them, like you don't know, maybe they didn't know that they had an allergy to salicylic acid or something, and it happens. Yes. So I think if you have an allergy to aspirin, I think you wouldn't react well to salicylic acid. So, things like that you trial and error as well with them, but it's nice to have that established trust and connection with them, so that they can not lose hope, and blame you. But at the end of the day, you just have to
tell them that even if these are the right products, it might take a while
to see some results.
And really
encourage that, like before photo.
I think that's a really good idea, because people get used to the way they look from day to day, and like they might come in and you're like, oh wow, like we're making some headway, and they're just like discouraged and don't see it.
Or they don't see it.
Before photo is a really good idea.
Maybe even have them take like a photo a month later or 3 months later. Really 3 months later, I would say. But even like after a month, if they're really doing their regimen, like they'll see results like after a month.
Yeah, and if they come in and it's gotten worse, you might just be like, oh, did you change your routine or anything? And they might be like, oh yeah, I went on vacation, and then just don't harp on it. Just be like, oh, okay, like sometimes we'll have setbacks, it's not a big deal, life happens. Right. Get back on your routine.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I have any other tips to share.
Yeah, I think that
covers it. Well, I hope this helps, and I hope that you're able to treat your guest and have great results. And if you'd like to see more of these videos, let us know. Thank you so much for...
And if you have any tips that we didn't cover, or that we might want to know, just...
add it to the comment section. Maybe someone has a different experience.
Yeah, we love to learn.
Oh yeah, always. Thanks again for stopping by. We will see you next time.
Bye.